All right, so we're recording this as the polls close in Georgia. I foresee, not with a lot of confidence, but I foresee a Democratic sweep. I think that Ossoff and Warnock combined are the perfect candidate. I think Ossoff is, stronger in the suburbs, and he can bring out that moderate, especially college educated vote that can swing both ways. And Warnock can really and has turned out the black vote. You combine those two into one candidate, you've got a very strong candidate. I think Trump, but we'll find out, has suppressed the Republican vote. So not a lot of confidence, but I'm predicting a Democratic sweep. Peter, what do you think?
I'm afraid I'm on the other side. I think it's going to be a Republican sweep. I think, and I base that on two things. One is my own personal polling is watching Fox News for the days leading up in this morning. They were very chipper this morning. They were very excited. I think their numbers look pretty good. Then I watched the pre-closing of the polls this evening, and Stacey Abrams was very angry. So were some other Democrats. I think they know that the numbers in Fulton County are not coming in. I saw there were no lines in Fulton County today. I saw one exit poll that said the college graduate whites had increased their vote for Purdue by about 8 points. So I think the numbers are not going to be there. I don't even think it's going to go late. I think it's going to be called tonight sometime.
Thurgood?
Well, it falls to someone to be a mealy-mouthed, middle-of-the-roader, and that's me. I think it's going to be a split. I think Democrats and the Republicans each take one seat. If I had to pick one, and I would say, I think Peter's raised some interesting points about Ossoff's profile, but I think it's liable to be Warnock if there is one Democratic victor, and I base that more on the fact that although the polls seem to have been within the margin of error for weeks, the last sets of polls have had Warnock, while still within the margin of error, pretty consistently just a tad percentage point or two ahead. But I'll be watching closely because I don't know that there's any way to really predict it. And I do feel as if the president, though his remarks may have been bizarre and incendiary, was deployed to exactly the right spot in the state to have made a difference in turnout for the Republican candidates.
Mike, you're the tiebreaker.
I have to kind of go with Brother Marshall here. I think it's going to be a split decision, and I don't think Warnock can win. And it's only I just have a hard time believing in Georgia that they elect a black guy. And I hate to say it that it's racial, but I think at some point it's racial. And I think that, it is hard to know what the electorate looks like down there and what they're actually going to be thinking about and doing. But I think most of them are kind of figuring out what is, what do I care about for my family? And I think a lot of that is just basically, their own individual interests. And so I predict a split decision too. I think Warnock does not get elected and Ossoff might squeak in, but I would not be surprised if both of the Democrats lose.
Yeah,
I think he would be. Go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say, one of the other things that struck me in some of the exit polling that I saw just before we went on was that among Democrats, almost 80% said that the virus was the major issue, while Republicans said no. Almost 70% said that the economy is the issue. And if they're voting on the economy, they're voting for Trump.
Well, it
is.
The economy
they're voting for Purdue and for Leflin.
You know, when I did
It's a
CNBC
misreading
yesterday,
of the economy, by the way.
well, see, when I did
What's that?
CNBC yesterday, they said, you know, that people want a check on the Democrats, right? And so it's not necessarily that they're voting for Loeffler and Perdue, but they're voting not to have the Democrats have, you know, total control of Washington. I thought that. But see, when I hear Trump say we're you know, if you elect the Democrats, you're voting for communists, I think that that's just so over the top that maybe people say, well, come on, that's crazy. They're not communists, and they stay home. But I could be wrong on that.
No, it's radical socialists. That's the new term that they use. And
You know, on
there
the
are
one hand,
a lot
go
of
ahead, Mike.
believers, a lot of believers in that.
I was going to
We
say, on the
handed
one
them-
hand,
but
the Biden-Harris administration really needs to get out of the blocks with some wins on policy and with the platform. And without having a majority in the Senate, that is very difficult. And as Mike has reminded us on more than one occasion, a majority is one thing. And frankly, the way to get things done on Capitol Hill on the Senate side is you actually need 60 votes because of procedural requirements. So, you know, being one short of the 50 is itself very painful. But even that was going to be a tough row to hoe.
listen, you know, I think Biden is facing monumental challenges. I don't think he's going to have a cabinet in place by this summer, a full cabinet. I think that the Republicans, if they win these two elections tonight, I know that they're going to dig in, and it's not just going to be one; it's going to be multiple members of cabinet nominated people are going to be very badly damaged in these hearings coming up.
But the point I would make is, you know, when I worked for President Clinton, I was a deputy assistant secretary. I didn't have to get confirmed. I didn't go through a confirmation process, but you know, at a deputy assistant secretary level, I feel like I made a little bit of difference. And I think that's where Biden will have impact. He will.
That is absolutely right.
He will be able to bring people in who are competent, who can start doing their work. They don't require Senate confirmation. And, you know, the sea change will be, you know, getting rid of I mean, you know, some of these people have burrowed in from the Trump world, but I think it'll be really, you know, bringing new people in who will actually be competent, who will start doing the work. And that's the big difference. I mean, he's not going to get any big, I agree. He's not going to have a legislative majority in the Congress where he can actually pass big legislation, but he can actually make a big difference in who he brings into government. And that, you know, that does make a difference at the end of the day.
Well, I think without question, this is the most consequential Senate election. Well, I'll say no Senate election has ever been more consequential than this one.